Friendo, Steve here.
Larson.
And welcome back to Going in Raw, the only pro wrestling podcast you need to be listening to. Larson, I got a question for you. Just off the top of your head, just without thinking about it. What's the hardest profession in the world? Don't think about it. First thing comes to mind.
Oh, gosh. I mean, maybe like a brain surgeon because the margin for error is so small.
You'd be wrong. It's actually professional wrestler booker. It's the person who runs television for professional wrestling. It's much more difficult than brain surgery.
I'll be perfectly honest, doing that seems pretty low stakes.
I love you and I actually had the right, like the same answer, because when I think about that, the first thing I think of is brain surgeon as well. So yeah. Good job, you win.
Yay! Like a Newlywed Game type thing.
Well, yeah, exactly, dude. We would, boy, if anybody ever did that, we'd crush it.
Clean up.
The reason why I bring that up, Larson, is because, as you know, these days, WWE, what are they?
Not on fire.
Oh, I thought you were going to say down bad. We're not on the same page.
Yeah, they're horny for quality creative.
They're horny for views, man. And a lot of that is because their creative is just sort of like, eh. Yeah. And so today on Count Out, look, I want to preface this by saying this. I don't want to hurt any feelings. Well, unless it's Triple H's, I don't really care about that. But I don't want to hurt any feelings. If you enjoy the current WWE product, good, great. We're happy for you.
Happy for you. Enjoy it. Don't let us change your mind.
Right. However, given that this past Friday SmackDown, granted, it was on a Halloween. It was up against, I think, a World Series game.
Game 6 of the World Series.
Game 6 of the World Series. Did less than 1 million views the first time. The worst, it was like 993,000.
Holy shit. I was just about to look up the recent ratings. That's awful.
It was the worst rating.
Wow.
Of SmackDown of all time, outside of when they get shifted over to FS1.
Holy shit.
Yes. Halloween and the World Series. And I'll be honest with you, a whole lot of who gives a shit.
Well, I mean, let's look to the previous Friday. It's not like SmackDown was cleaning up there. 1.15 million. That's not great.
No, it's not. Ugh. So you can look at that. You can look at WWE being disappointed with the numbers for that episode of SmackDown in terms of the attendance. Now, not all. Look, this can be salvaged. I'm not saying that this is WWF circa 1995, but it seems clear the boom period is over. It's done. And what's wild is that we have actually tracked 10 things.
10 things
that have contributed to the death of the WWE boom period. Now, they could be back on a boom period pretty easily. Just do what? Good creative. Just do good creative. But here are 10 ways that they messed up their own boom period in 2025, and
basically, it's at the beginning of this year.
Let's go ahead and start off with number 10. ESPN wants. Wait, how much do they want?
There's going to be one common thread throughout this episode, and that's WWE trying to find ways to get even more money out of their fan base. This is a wet cloth.
Yeah.
This is TKO WWE just wringing that wet cloth, and every bit of moisture coming out of that wet cloth is their fan base's money.
Wait, there's some at the end. Oh, there's a little bit of money here.
So,
look at this family, horny to go to this show. Let's wring that family.
So cumulatively, finally got it right. If you look at how much it costs just to watch WWE's content.
I don't want to know.
So you got, including the pay-per-view.
Yeah, this is all tax write-off stuff for us, dude.
It is, but not for the average viewer, WWE's product.
No.
So ESPN Unlimited, assuming you're about less than half of subscribers to a pay TV service who don't get that included in their pay TV service, you're talking $30 right there. You got Peacock if for some reason you want to keep up a Saturday night's main event in NXT PLEs. That's another, 15?
Yeah, 12,
if you want
15.
No commercials.
Maybe you're lucky like me and you get it through Xfinity, free gratis, but you got to sit through those ads.
Yeah. But even then, you're still paying for cable service. Anyways, you also got Netflix, which depending what tier you're on is anywhere from like $10 to $23, I think.
Yeah, right. That sounds right. Yeah.
And then if you don't use a VPN or something like that, then you got to pay for cable to get SmackDown on USA.
Yeah.
And I'm probably forgetting something. There's a lot of money you got to spend just to follow WWE's product because their content is all over the place, and every one of them you got to pay for basically individually.
Yeah, it used to be where you just get it in one spot, cable television. You watch the cable television, and then you pop on the pay-per-views. The best period of time was when it was all on cable and the WWE network.
Yes.
Because you pay $9.99 a month, and you get the entire library of professional wrestling, basically. And
what a great value that was.
Yeah, and then you get the pay-per-views. Oftentimes, those pay-per-views were like 8 hours long. That's an exaggeration, but they did have really long pay-per-views.
They're much longer than they are now, yes.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's not just ESPN, but the ESPN deal really did seem to be, like, people seemed all right with it. They're like, you know what? Netflix, that's fine. Well, everybody has Netflix. Netflix Basically. Is cool. Cable, a lot of people still have cable. That's all right. We're good. We're good with that. And then all of a sudden, we got Peacock. I'm sorry, Peacock preceded Netflix, obviously.
Yeah, but the Peacock thing was all right because it's still a time when that partnership started. It was $10, and at least they had not all the network stuff, but a lot of the network stuff over there.
Plus, Night Court.
You want to confirm that Night Court reruns are actually on there?
Nope. I have no. Maybe they're going to run those in the WWE Vault.
At least be available somewhere.
They got to be available somewhere. So, yeah, I think they do have Homicide Live on the streets over there. In any event, but, the ESPN thing really was sort of like the extra, because it'd be one thing if, like, the ESPN thing was $9.99 a month. There is a breaking point. There is like, $12.99, $14.99, $16.99, no. I feel like it's around that area.
I feel like it's under a $15 threshold for a monthly streaming service.
I feel like you're probably right about that.
That unless they're giving you just a really significant bang for your buck.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm still not sure why I'm paying $20 for Netflix because I don't really watch that shit that much.
I watch a lot of Netflix. Lost is on there. Bama Loves the Stranger Things. That's coming back. We're going to binge that one. So I love the Netflix. So I'm down paying the extra so I don't have to deal with bullshit Netflix thing. But teach their own. A lot of people have the Netflix. Some people don't. But Disney I got rid of. I never did finish Andor, which I'm kind of sad about.
Season 1 was a better season, I think.
Yeah. I enjoyed season 2. I liked where it was going.
Season 2
I
was
think
fine. Yeah.
It's weird because then you got to maybe watch Rogue One again.
Yeah, because that's the thing. It just kind of like whoop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Gives you like an off ramp right to Rogue One.
Right into it. Yeah. Anyways, it's just the price gouging of ESPN and whatnot. We're going to talk about more price gouging here a little bit later in the episode. But first, let's talk about number 9.
9.
Ads.
So you could call it over-commercialization of the WWE product if you want. You wouldn't be wrong.
Yeah.
WrestleMania this year seemed just as much about pro wrestling as it did selling products and kind of doing a victory lap for WWE as being mainstream entertainment.
Yeah.
Every match at WrestleMania was sponsored by a different sponsor. We had the drumstick mascot in the crowd. And
I'm cool with that, though.
I'm actually okay with that. Of all the ad crossovers, that's the one I was actually kind of fine with.
It's funny. I like that you bring up the whole victory lap thing because it did seem like, and I don't know, this is one of those things that's a bit it's an intangible, if you will, where, for fans of football or people who just enjoy, hey, you know what, maybe if you're not into football every year, you would appreciate the spectacle of the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. The Super Bowl is very much like just overly commercialized with ad after ad after ad. Everything has an ad attached to it. So it's not abnormal in this day and age.
Here's the thing. That's the way the Super Bowl's always been.
Well, okay, so that's what I was about to say. It's not abnormal for a giant event to be over commercialized. WWE merely got to where everybody else already has been for 10 years. And the celebration of that seemed to be kind of the thing that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. It's to get there so suddenly and loudly, and it puts such a spotlight on, hey, guess what? Now we can be over commercialized too. That really kind of, I think, put a lot of people off, or at the very least, distracted them from their pro wrestling stories from 41 this year.
You know, some people just tuned into the Super Bowl simply to watch the commercials and the halftime show. People can tune into the Super Bowl, not give any shits about football, and still enjoy the 4.5 hour broadcast, you know?
Do you think will there be any time, and I say this, I think half tongue in cheek, but WrestleMania is a big event. Is there going to be a point where people will tune into it? Oh, I want to see what commercials they play during WrestleMania.
No. Pro wrestling's too niche, first of all.
Okay.
And while the stigma of pro wrestling is nowhere close to what it used to be, I still feel like there's some people like pro wrestling.
Will there ever be any like big movie trailers that debut WrestleMania?
Absolutely not.
You don't think so?
Even if WrestleMania aired on CBS starting at, you know, the kickoff show at 9 in the morning, even though kickoff for WrestleMania is not till 3:18 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any WrestleMania that'll ever get numbers anywhere close to approaching the Super Bowl.
I'm going to write down a viewership number. Because, okay, what did the Super Bowl usually does, like, what, 110 to 150 million?
Know, like 1 out of every 3 people in the country usually watches the Super Bowl, yeah.
Okay, all right. Now, I'm going to write down a number in the millions that I think the WrestleMania would do if it aired the way you just said.
Okay.
On CBS.
With opening bell at 3:18 in the afternoon. Okay. Yeah.
Right. Everything identical to the Super Bowl. And I'm wondering if your number will match my number.
Oh, I have to write a number 2?
Well, you can say your number. Mine is already written down.
All right.
I'm going to up this by a little bit. Oh boy, this might be wildly over. But okay, what is your number? How many millions of people do you think are going to watch?
I think the most they could get right now. Well, all right. In my mind, let's. If they really tailor this WrestleMania to attract the broadest possible audience, talking The Rock in action, they pay Cena an obscene amount of money to come out of retirement for another match.
Yeah, it's gonna be like Saudi Mania, but CBS. Our time zone
in Tampa, Florida.
Tampa, right? How much? How many millions? Give me a number.
Somewhere between 10 and 12.
I have 8. I think 8 is more realistic.
Yeah, at first I was thinking 6 or 7. But
I had 6 written down at first.
You know, but then I thought, if they really load it up, and and CBS is really huge on promoting it, maybe they get to 10.
Yeah, right.
Which is 1/10 of the Super Bowl.
Which is these days, I think, because I think it did like 104. I don't know how many it did.
It does an outrageous number.
It does a really big number.
It's a massive number. It's every year. It's a cultural event. The Super Bowl is here in the United States, and as huge as WrestleMania is in the world of pro wrestling, it is nowhere close.
Okay, so I was pretty on target. The audience peaked at 137.7 million.
Okay,
yeah. So
we're talking closer to about 8%.
So if you take 130 million away from that, that's what WrestleMania would probably do.
At best.
They'd be so excited if they got that number.
Oh, I know they would.
Oh, man. But like you said, it's a niche thing, dude. It's a niche thing. It's not, football's the number 1 sport in the country. Mm-hmm. It's a niche thing. We're not dogging it. Anyways, before we continue on with number 8, this is a fun conversation. This is, for such a dark thing, this is kind of a fun conversation.
Well, I think there's a lot of areas where we can crack wise about it.
Exactly.
Because of WWE's hubris. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Is hubris is great to poke fun at.
It really is. Anyways, before we continue on, we have a sponsor for the show this week, so let's talk about them.
Let's do it. This episode of Going in Raw is sponsored by BetterHelp, Steve.
Yes.
If I'm being honest with myself, I'm not the best when it comes to keeping in touch with people. And I don't know why I have such a tough time with it, but I know that when I do reconnect, I generally ask myself, Larson, why didn't you do this sooner?
Oh, man, it's good just to reach out to them. But I get it. Sometimes it can feel like a bit of a challenge to get in touch with someone you haven't spoken to in a while. And reaching out for therapy can also feel difficult, but it's worth it.
It is. I can confirm it is worth it. It was tough for me to come to the conclusion that I needed to go to therapy when I was dealing with severe anxiety about 20 years ago, but once I did, I was able to find a therapist who helped me learn the tools I needed to better cope with my anxiety.
With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is one of the world's largest online therapy platforms, and they're making therapy far more convenient. BetterHelp does the initial matching work for you so you can focus on your therapy goals. All you have to do to get started is fill out a short questionnaire to identify your needs and preferences, and BetterHelp's 12-plus years of experience and industry-leading match fulfillment rate means they typically get it right the first time. But if you aren't happy with your initial match, you can switch therapists at any time from their tailored recommendations.
This month, don't wait to reach out. Whether you're checking in on a friend or reaching out to a therapist yourself, BetterHelp makes it easier to take that first step. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/raw. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/raw.
All right, let's go ahead and move on now to number 8. Main event, Jey Uso.
Yeet.
Now, you and I have been both Jey Uso guys because we both feel like the writing of his character from the beginning of the Bloodline stuff around 2020 up until his Yeet phase, and even now that he's trying to be Little Roman, has been a pretty natural, organic, and pretty well-written character arc. We are not... that opinion is not reflective of a large part of the fan base.
Doesn't seem like it. Well, at least the internet wrestling fan base, because you look at the live crowds reacting to Jay's entrance. Everybody seems pretty on board with Jey Uso.
They do. It's difficult to, I think, get a read on, all right, is this a situation where the entrance has become a thing unto itself that is keeping him over? Whenever he makes a save, the crowd pops really big for him. I mean, I don't know about now, but over the past year or so since he's been doing the Yeet thing, the crowd's been really pro Jay. They wanted to see him win the world title. There was some strong stuff there. He's sort of indicative, and this is going to be something that we can kind of talk about it in a larger sense. Jey Uso is kind of indicative of a larger issue. He's been the same guy for all this time amongst a sea of the same guys for all this time.
Yeah.
This entry could easily be any of the other people who have been in the main event scene for as long as they have been.
Specifically, Drew McIntyre. So Drew at one point was one of the more interesting characters when he turned heel, and he started to adopt this outlook that everything is someone else's fault. He's blameless in all his misfortune. And when that move to that character happened, it was really good. It was pretty interesting. He was doing really good work. In the year and a half, 2 years since, his character has not changed whatsoever.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. Now, you could have a good idea, but if you just hammer that good idea into the ground, it gets stale. Characters have to change and have to evolve. Situations have to be put in front of them for them to react to, and at some point make a realization that something has to be different.
These are sort of two sides of the same coin, I feel, because with Drew McIntyre, his character hasn't changed, and given that this guy was, in what many consider the feud of the year for WWE last year, it seemed like there would be a natural character arc where he would, eventually get to the point where he probably should, and that's become WWE champion. Like, that is, he's turned into, or he's phasing into like a Dolph Ziggler phase.
Mm-hmm. Well, hopefully it's just a phase.
Right.
Like, hopefully he's not just turning into Dolph 2025, where this is his lot.
And people want to see him get that title. The flip side of that is Jey Uso, who does have the title and is pushed on us probably more, and it is catching up to the arenas because just recently he was getting booed at the Punk match. There was some fan cam of people saying fuck Jey Uso. There was during the promo with CM Punk, and granted, this I think is a function of the writing. He tossed Jimmy out of the ring during the big number one contendership battle royal thing, and when that was brought up in the promo that CM Punk and him had, that was booed. He was booed when Jimmy showed up backstage because it was a function of the writing. They didn't like what Jay did. But there is also the internet, I'm going to call it outrage, but the internet criticism of Jey Uso as it pertains to his wrestling. And we actually sort of saw this play out on Unreal, where Triple H basically says, you're getting gassed by the time you get to the ring. And we kind of need to work on that. And so his continual push over names that people really want to see, like LA Knight as well, who wasn't even on Raw this week.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Leading to the conspiracy theory that because he grabbed a sign out of the crowd that said, we don't want Jay, we want LA Knight, and showed it to the camera. I don't know how that's gonna play out, but there are names out there that people I think would respond to and want to see, and instead we get Jey Uso.
Yeah, and after what happened on Saturday night's main event and the lackluster match that he and Punk had, to see Jay instantly in the main event of Raw teaming with Punk, it kind of felt like, all right, Jay was in that match, he lost. How are we going to push his character forward? How are we going to pivot to doing something with him that's interesting away from the title without Roman being there? Something else we'll get to in a second. And instead, it was just like, all right, we'll just carry on with this and see where it goes. And nothing really changed because, it's going to be Jay and it's going to be Roman, it's going to be Punk, and probably Jimmy, maybe LA Knight at War Games. Again, Jay in the main event of another pay-per-view. And like you and I, we appreciate what they've done with the Jey Uso character. And for us, the eating isn't just, like a huge thing to get the crowd involved. It means something to him as a character, given everything he went through during the Bloodline saga.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting situation where you have a character who's been actually written pretty well and has done really interesting stuff. But at the same time, a large portion of the fan base does not want to see him on their TVs.
Yeah, there is a disconnect, in which case the writing has not really done what it should do for pro wrestling, for the pro wrestling crowd. It'll be very interesting to see what direction they take Jey Uso going forward. That's sort of overall one of the issues with WWE. That's not really on this list because it is kind of an abstract one. And that is the aversion to risk taking, and that's sort of indicative, like with this entry as well. You can talk about the lack of fresh faces on the scene. We mentioned, NXT, the three names in NXT, and specifically this pertains to the men's division.
Yeah.
Because the women's division is fine, but the WWE is not going to push the women's divisions the way they push the men's. That's just reality. And we can sit here and crow about that, but that's just the reality of the situation. There is not going to be a time when WrestleMania nights 1 and 2 are going to be main evented by the women, even though they can wrestle their asses off. And their star power is on par with the men. WWE simply doesn't do that. So you're left with a bunch of dudes who are kind of old, who have significant name brand value, but also at the cost of, some exciting potential call-ups like Trick Williams, Javon Evans, and Obafemi. And so we'll see over the next year how those will be handled, because they will get called up at a certain point, and maybe there will be, especially with a group like the Vision, maybe they will make some pretty drastic changes when it comes to that. establishing a proper youth movement in the men's division. Because people are not going to be around much longer. Like CM Punk is probably not going to be around. Like by the time 2027 hits, I'd be shocked if we weren't talking about his retirement year. AJ's going to be gone. It's not like he's been significantly featured, but Cena's gone, obviously.
Yeah,
Roman's going to be gone.
Recently that, or he inferred that his next W contract could very well be his last W contract and that he's going to retire after that contract. So within 5 to 8 years from now, Cody could be gone.
Yeah, I would be surprised if 5 years from now Cody wasn't on a super part-time deal. So yeah, I mean, and Main Event Jey Uso is kind of I don't know why I refer to him by his whole government name, Main Event Jey Uso.
Which is funny because none of that is his government name.
None of it is his government name. I took the scenic route with his name there. Jey Uso is kind of like, I feel like the fans, like they used to shit on Roman because they were like, man, WWE kind of sucks. And this guy is the one we're going to take it out on. I feel like Jey is kind of that guy,
And he's filling the Roman role then after all.
Right. Yeah. Then it's sort of apropos, isn't it? All right, let's go ahead and move on now to number 7. SmackDown becomes Road Dogg Kill. Get it?
You got pretty clever with some of these titles, didn't you?
Is the Road Dogg Jesse James his government name, Larson?
Oh, you didn't know?
Oh, you didn't know?
No, it's not.
Oh, what a bummer.
Not at all. Yeah, there was a spell for a good portion of 2025 where Raw was, without a doubt, no uncertainty, the A show in WWE's lineup, because SmackDown was, for the longest stretch, at best, like competent, but in zero ways actually intriguing whatsoever.
Yeah.
And at worst, a complete bore.
Yeah, at worst you could fall asleep to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it seemed to coincide
especially when it was 3 hours. Especially when it was a 3 hour
Oh my
show.
God, don't even remind me of that period of time. It was like from October to...
Yeah.
Wasn't it like...
Till June.
June, wasn't it?
Yeah, the first half of 2025. It was 3 hour SmackDowns, and they were unbearable because you'd sit there for a whole 3 hours. It would move at a glacial pace, and absolutely fucking nothing would happen.
Yeah.
Looking back, the only saving grace of that era was really the tag division, because they'd have two really good tag teams go out there and put on a 20-minute banger.
Yeah, they were good matches, but when you sit there and realize none of it really meant anything.
Yeah, I know, but at least we got to see Motor City Machine Guns quite a bit in our TV, and that's a great thing.
But that's
what was that? What was that?
Is, I did it. I did the thing right here.
No, but you got to hold it up a little higher.
I as long as it's within the frame.
It barely was in the frame. Thank you.
But it's funny you mentioned that, because that is the one thing I remember from the 3 hour SmackDown era is just, some good tag team matches. But goddamn, not a lot else.
No. SmackDown was bad. It was bad for a good portion of the year. Yeah.
Yeah. Especially because they had Cena on Raw most of the time. Cena was doing his heel stuff on Raw.
As SmackDown's champion, yeah.
As SmackDown's champion. Yeah. That was wild. That was absolutely crazy.
It was. I guess Mondays just fit into his schedule better, I suppose.
Especially once they lost Kevin Owens. It was like, oh man, okay. So just nothing is intriguing here whatsoever. And it was so bad that recently there was reports that they had a meeting to figure out, hey, how can we make this an actual fun show? Because seemingly just chopping an hour off it isn't helping that much. And there were some things, Ilya came back. They put the US title on him, and that was cool. And it has been better. It's still, until they're willing to take some risks with their storytelling, and mix it up a little bit. Hey, I get it. Cody's good for business. Do you need the prop on him? Do you need the title on him for him to continue to be best for business? Maybe he's best chasing the damn thing. Put it on Drew McIntyre. I think people really would love to see that.
Yeah.
So yeah, SmackDown. Oh boy, that was a bore at some points.
Oh yeah.
Let's talk about number 6.
6.
Part-time Roman Reigns. Man, from 2020, when the Tribal Chief showed up with Paul Heyman in tow, until he lost the title to Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania 40, Roman Reigns really was a pretty damn compelling character. I'm not saying all the bloodline stuff was great, but Roman Reigns, the insecurities that drove the Tribal Chief were consistently some interesting things. And even when he wasn't around back then, the rest of the bloodline and how they always felt Roman's presence to a degree. Sometimes he was like Thanos in the Marvel movies, where he wouldn't even be there, but people would be like, oh, this dude is just sort of lurking, And you got some interesting character dynamics because they would all play off of the idea of Roman Reigns. And as the Tribal Chief, as the, longest reigning champion of the modern era, he was incredibly interesting, and he became a legit draw and a reason for people to tune in. Once he lost that title, we got part-time Roman Reigns, and just there was no evolution to his character, like, at all. There was no epilogue. There was no interesting subsequent act for Roman Reigns.
Well, he's got to be around to tell those stories, and he's just not. When you got one of the top stars in the company, one of your top draws, that you're still relying on to pop a number on a weekly television show that he decides to show up to, or his pay-per-view matches. That to not put in the groundwork to develop the stories, to make those stories all the more impactful because of his limited schedule, it does a disservice to your programming. We saw that last year heading into War Games, where they did a rush job on the Bloodline reunion. Yeah, the War Games match was still solid, but gosh, there was so much good stuff they could have mined during the course of that Bloodline reunion heading into War Games last year. That was just kind of pushed aside, and it's like, all right, we're going to fast forward this because War Games is happening in 3 weeks.
If you think about the segments that they did during prime peak Bloodline with Sami Zayn and those dynamics, and where that all, left at WrestleMania 40, where that left everybody, the fact that they didn't mind that for the same type of compelling segments leading to War Games is a crime. It's an absolute bummer that, we got it. It felt more like, hey, we got the band back together. Let's play some greatest hits, as opposed to let's really explore this for some compelling television. A great example is pointing out, you need to apologize to Jay for everything you put him through. That never happened. Jay was just cool. It was just fine. And Roman never had to do that.
Nope.
And exploring that Roman Reigns character after he lost the title, they never did that. And that is something that could have been so incredibly interesting. But like you said, maybe it's a function of his contract that, hey, you can only do so much. You just, when he comes back, hey, Roman Reigns is back. Everybody pops. And who is he exactly? I don't know. He came back, I think, in the lead to SummerSlam after WrestleMania. And it was just like, nothing really there, you know?
Mm-hmm. Nope.
So, you had your biggest star and you sort of didn't do anything with him. Number 5. Brock Lesnar returned. That they anticipated that this was not going to be popular universally and incredibly unpopular with a certain segment of their fan base, because it was literally due to his return, they stopped opening up the floor for questions for Triple H with those press conferences.
Now they even do that same format. They just do like a post-show thing.
Yeah, they just have like a bunch of fans behind them. They're probably going to get rid of them because last time I think they were chanting like, bring back Edge, and there was something else.
Well, there was the thing where they were chanting, we want Cross.
We want Cross.
Triple H is like, oh, you hear them? They want Brock. It's like, no, that's not what they're saying. You know? And for a variety of reasons, I think, speaking as someone who doesn't seem that concerned with exploring dimension in their character, Brock seemed perfectly content, just kind of doing the same thing he's been doing since he came back in 2012 for the most part.
Well, WWE is just going to keep on paying him a shit ton of money.
And they're going to cater to whatever he wants to do because they still think he's a draw. Maybe there's metrics that prove that. I don't know. I just know as a viewer, a longtime viewer of WWE product, and seeing Brock do what Brock does for now more than a dozen years since he came back, I'm tired of seeing him on my television because he offers nothing new, especially when he puts on dog shit performances like he did at WrestlePalooza against Cena.
Yeah, I agree, and I think a large part of the fan base agrees too. And when WWE has to bend over backwards and say, we don't pay attention to anybody except for what we hear in the arena, okay, well, we'll see how that serves you. Much like, and we'll talk about this later, much like, the philosophy of, well, we're trying to price out families of their ticket price. So we'll see how that works out for you.
Yeah, yeah.
When you see Brock, you can't help but think, I know for a lot of people, and some people are totally cool with it, whatever, but you can't help but think of the number of times he was mentioned in the Janelle Grant lawsuit.
Yep.
And that alone is just, it's like, if you can't see him and not sort of think about that, then that's an issue. That's a problem. And just from anecdotally speaking, my God, I can't tell you how many comments we've had in our videos, how many times I've seen on Twitter, people say, yeah, dude, this is a big turnoff. I'm not interested in WWE. It's just not for me. If they're going to bring this guy back, they're basically saying something about their priorities.
Yep.
So yeah, that was a big turnoff. I think that was just something that, if you can pull a move that is going to turn off a portion of your fan base, I'm not sure why you're doing it. Are you so bereft of ideas that everybody can get on board with? Instead of bringing Brock Lesnar back, why not just call up Obafemi and book him in the same manner? People will pop for that. People will appreciate that, because on top of the fact that this guy has been busting his ass in NXT, did a killer job as champion, you're introducing us to a new star. This guy is going to be the future. And instead you just sort of wheel out a guy who, does he really help all that much? Does he really move that many tickets? You're a machine, WWE. Nobody is you can do this with a number of other people and not piss off a portion of your fan base.
Well, I think that what you mentioned there is probably why they feel justified in doing it, because they view themselves as a machine. They think, well, people are fans of the logo. They're fans of that WWE logo. And so, yeah, some people, they probably consider them outliers, are going to get angry about, for example, Brock's return or any number of things that we've mentioned or going to mention on this list. But at the end of the day, it's not going to be a sizable number of fans. And if they leave, well, at some point they're going to come back anyways.
Yeah.
That's probably their attitude.
Yeah. You're probably right. That's one thing that I feel like Triple H, and it's funny, there's a promo from like 2015. I don't know. It's an Authority promo, I think. And granted, he's totally in character, but Triple H, it's the one where he's like, oh, what are you going to do? Leave? You going to stop watching? But we all know you're not. And it's like, since that time, their audience is fallen off big time.
Yeah.
Because they have, a variety of moves. And granted, back then up until 2021, it was because of Vince McMahon, and, the buck stops with him. But yeah, you do sort of get the idea, I think, sometimes, that Triple H is fine. Triple H thinks that, like, no matter what we do, they will continue to watch. We will continue to score these billion-dollar deals. And I'm not sure what justifies that arrogance, because 993,000 people tuned into SmackDown instead, and what, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands didn't, because of things that they found more interesting, whether it's going out for Halloween or whether it's the World Series or what have you. But people found something else to be interested in. And if you're producing content in a business way also that doesn't alienate people, you might not see those huge drop-offs. People might make you a priority.
Yep.
Let's move on to number 4.
4.
Saudi Mania. Talking about business deals that are turning people off.
Yeah, this seemed inevitable at a certain point, especially, a couple of years into this partnership they've had with the Saudi General Entertainment Authority for since 2018? Is that the first show there?
2018, yeah.
Yeah, so for the last 7 years. There have been reports throughout the last at least 5 years that Saudi's entertainment authorities looking to bring a WrestleMania.
Do you remember, was there a rumor that some people, or speculation, I should say, that COVID Mania, a Saudi was an option for COVID Mania?
Oh,
for
no, I never heard
2020? That. Okay, maybe I'm completely wrong about that. I thought that. Where did UFC go? Never mind.
Didn't they just do their shows at their? They did one in
They had like a facility. They had the thing.
They have a facility in Vegas.
Yeah, right. Didn't NXT do a show there
Apex.
or something?
Yeah.
The Apex. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where they started doing their stuff.
Okay, all right. I'll just shut up then about that.
But of course, the sports washing aspect of WWE's shows in Saudi Arabia has been a source of controversy since this partnership began. And now that WWE has decided to bring their largest show of the calendar year to Saudi Arabia, you got to expect, all right, the number of eyeballs that are going to be on this show are significantly larger than any other show they do in any given year, WWE. So you got to, I guess the concern is they're going to double down on the sports washing aspect because they know a lot of people are going to be watching the show. WWE is getting paid a shit ton of money for this show.
Yeah.
So, if the concerns are all the sports washing we've seen on these Saudi shows to date are maybe a mere fraction of what we're going to get at WrestleMania.
Yeah. It's funny because it is totally becoming normalized in the sports business world. Yeah. We've seen the NFL start to dip their toes into it. Obviously, golf.
Live golf, yeah.
Boxing, I believe.
Boxing, and then soccer as well. Yeah.
Soccer as well. And so this is only going to continue. But the fact that, the biggest show, especially when, I forget when it was, but originally the Vegas one coming up was supposed to be in New Orleans.
Yeah.
And then, Vegas has more money, so fuck you. We're going to go back to Vegas, double down. And then, the next massive deal is to go to Saudi Arabia. Now, from a shareholder perspective, from a business perspective, you understand why they're doing it. Because they're a publicly traded, TKO is a publicly traded company, and they have to appease their shareholders. So, of course, they're going to do this. But, in the long term, you just wonder, okay, how much can you piss off your fan base?
Yeah. You got to wonder, a lot of these moves that we're talking about here, especially financially, these short-term moves that seem to benefit the company and the shareholders more immediately, what's the long-term ramifications of these particular deals or these particular behaviors? And that remains to be seen. Another aspect I wonder about too is my understanding is that UFC was heavy with debt.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe now with the WWE merger, I've seen some speculation on this, so hopefully I'm not making crap up, that TKO is using some of these WWE deals to help alleviate the debt burdens on the rest of the company.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because they're under the same, it's TKO now.
Yeah, it's under the same umbrella now.
Yeah. Umbrella. So, they had, was it UFC specifically or Endeavor in general? I forget.
I think it was Endeavor because of the UFC deal.
Okay, maybe that's it. Yeah. I do know that entity is saddled with debt. That's 1,000% true. So regardless of what the specifics are, WWE is a money-making company. Mm-hmm. And that's why the speculation that, they might sell to the Saudis, I really doubt that because WWE is a long-term money-making company. And they can continue to pay off those debts and probably, accrue new debts along the way because that's what companies do these days.
They do. They just pile on debt, and if it gets to be not so sustainable, then they find a way to try to pay it off. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Or they just, don't. So Saudi Mania pissed a lot of people off. Let's move on now to number 3. WWE is the game Triple H. So
it wasn't that long ago that there was reports that Triple H was trying to make himself into the Dana White of WWE.
Yeah.
The face of the company, much like in UFC, fighters come and go. You always put Dana White in front of the camera to be a representative of the company. They wanted Triple H, or Triple H wanted Triple H, to fulfill that same role within WWE.
I mean, this one is interesting in several aspects because I would think that given that there was the time when there was like, some Vince and some Triple H, and it seemed like TKO Endeavor was like, remember the story? He was knighted by TKO, by Endeavor, to be the guy in creative, and there was no more Vince. And I would think that maybe the case could be made that, it's kind of important for us to have a Dana White figure, a guy who, because to this day, when Triple H comes out, he gets nothing but cheers, even during the dark days of WWE, when 2019, even when Vince, even after the allegations, and Vince went on that weird, I'm going to go out there anyways, and people would still cheer the guy.
Yeah, that was confusing.
It's going to be a while before anybody boos Triple H. I don't know if that's going to happen. And so to decrease the leverage of wrestlers, you have the guy who's going to be there regardless, not the people who can come and go if they get a better offer from those other guys. And so I understand it from a variety of reasons. The tricky part is when you start letting him take the company in a direction that is construed by a lot of people as a very unpopular direction. We're saying this one day after the elections here in the United States, where the guy that Triple H loves so much.
U.S. Leader you're talking about, yes.
I'm talking, of course, about U.S. Leader. Who gave us that one?
It was Guion.
Guion?
Yeah.
God, I love Guion. So U.S. Leader his party got absolutely killed in the off-year election.
Yeah.
We're like record turnout in California for a single proposition.
Yeah. I filled out my ballot and I was like, it's the only thing I'm voting on this time?
There's not a fucking like school board or something that I'm supposed to...
there's no bond measures or anything like that?
Yeah, right. Nothing, just this? Okay, cool.
All right.
Yes, it
Circle
is.
that yes bubble and take it to the polling place. Yeah.
Take it down to the polling place. And so the idea that Triple H is trying to cozy up, and look, I get it. President of the United States, in general, pretty big deal. but this particular President of the United States, let's take a look at his current approval rating. Oh, a new low of 37%. Drop another 12 and you'll be in Nixon territory.
Yeah.
And so, to say the least, this U.S. leader is controversial and polarizing. And I understand, obviously, Triple H's mother-in-law is a member of the cabinet, doing everything she can to dismantle that particular department. And a lot of people, especially wrestling fans, where there have been studies to show that wrestling fans do not roll. We do not fuck with those people. Are not interested in that.
Not at all.
They're not interested in that.
Nope.
And when things like Triple H showing up at the White House to promote whatever childhood cancer initiative they have, which is hilarious given that they are defunding research into childhood cancer, is absolutely silliness. And by the way, if you have a problem with us talking like this in the comments, just keep it to yourself. We don't care.
No.
You're just exposing yourself, and we'll probably just ban you from our comments.
There's a good chance that'll happen. Yeah. December 13th is going to be an interesting day. You know, it's Cena's last match on the Saturday night's main event. It's in D.C., which is an interesting choice because early reports seem to indicate this is going to be from Boston. Because that's where Cena's from.
Yeah.
He's from the Boston area.
Yeah.
Instead, he's going to be on was it next week? It's upcoming Monday.
Yeah, it's this coming
Raw's
Monday.
in Boston, and that's going to be Cena's last appearance in that area. And, you know, I think it was Meltzer saying that WWE has invited members of U.S. leaders' current administration to attend that particular Saturday night's main event. No word on if U.S. Leader has been specifically invited or if U.S. Leader plans to attend.
Right. Yeah, I don't know how that's going to play out, but it is one of the, I feel, biggest missteps. Even if you're a diehard MAGA guy, right? If you love U.S. Leader, even if you're that, you have to understand Vince McMahon, who loves that guy. Vince McMahon did not want to have anything to do. Would he ridicule? Like, I know he did like the Clinton thing, like he made fun of Clinton, but I feel like that was a bit more just bad comedy as opposed to, hey, let's, you never saw him cozy up to like the Bush administration. They would be like super, like, especially post 9/11. Oh my God, they were all about the troops and everything. But Vince McMahon would never embrace, especially understanding. Look, like I said, if this was a Reagan 84 situation where it's like just a super popular, president, U.S. leader who the country loved 49 out of 50 states, then okay, yeah, maybe you do that because it's a universally loved thing. But Vince wouldn't be caught dead doing this shit. And so it is surprising to me that this is something that Triple H is interested in doing.
It is surprising. And maybe for Triple H, it's a flex. Look, I have access to U.S. Leader.
I still don't know.
I don't know.
I think it is. I think it's, to me, I've always felt it is, I've seen speculation. We've talked about the idea that, okay, he's maybe trying to appeal to the UFC type fan via the politics, which is nuts to me and really wrong-headed. I do think it's more a flex, but also we're legitimate. I think his main driving force is legitimizing, getting rid of the stigma. Oh, that's fake, as opposed to, oh, this is fun entertainment and understood for what it is. And I feel like part of that desire to legitimize, I think part of that process is, well, this is the president of the United States.
Yeah, you're swapping one stigma for another.
You're right. That's how I see it as well. That's absolutely how I see it.
So, yeah, I don't see any benefit.
Because how many comments have we seen? Oh, it's a MAGA company. It's a MAGA company.
Yeah.
Yeah. They would never have had that under Vince.
No.
That was never the thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, all Triple H all the time. Next up, number 2. TKO, pricing out families with their ticket prices.
I came prepared with the quote. It was Mark Shapiro appearing at the Goldman Sachs Communicopia Technology Conference. What a clumsy name to fucking event.
The Communicopia, Larson.
The Communicopia.
I'm so glad we got to bring back the Communicopia talk.
So this is what Mark Shapiro had to say at the Goldman Sachs Communicopia Technology Conference. See if we can find ways to work in Communicopia just like I can Motor City Machine Guns. Anyways, WWE, that's what you say about ticket prices. WWE is not where the UFC is yet on ticket yields. We have our work to do there. We've seen a meaningful increase as evidenced by the 59% margin we did in the second quarter. Blah. Ticket sales and site fees play a big part in driving that. We know we have more room to go. Blah. Why do we know that? UFC is breaking records everywhere they go. We know we have a lot of room here because Vince McMahon was primarily pricing tickets for families and wasn't totally focused on maxing the opportunity there. We see what we can do with the UFC, and we're replicating that in terms of ticket yield. And advanced sales when it comes to on location on the WWE side is really working well. So I thought about this. So if you compare even WWE to other sports like the NFL, like which charge a premium for tickets, but I think even those have declined slightly. Obviously, NBA tickets are expensive. Baseball tickets are more expensive than they used to be, but still not that bad, at least here in this, in some areas.
Yeah.
But if you compare specifically like WB to UFC. I was thinking about how here in Sacramento, WB generally comes to this area twice a year.
Sure.
When is the last time UFC has come to Sacramento?
I legit don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think usually they might go to the Bay Area, Southern California. I mean, they have shows in Vegas all the time. Or if you compare WB to any sort of national touring act. So here living in Sacramento, which is not a huge market, I think we're top 30 in the nation, but, definitely not LA, New York, Chicago, Houston, whatever. And yet we get WB twice a year.
Yeah.
And now if we want a major musical artist to do like an arena tour, if they come to Sacramento on a regular basis, we're talking every 2, 3, maybe 5 years, they stop here.
Yeah.
So if you want to charge a premium for an event that we know twice a year we're going to get here, and think you could charge prices comparable to what apparently a Pearl Jam was charging for their pit tickets, when at best here in Sacramento we get them every 5 years.
Yeah.
There's a bit of a disconnect there, and especially when you have a situation like in Salt Lake City where they're doing shows back to back.
Yeah.
You're already hamstringing your ability to fill that house at least one of those nights.
Yeah.
Because in the span of a weekend, you're oversaturating that market.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I guess the point is, especially on the concert side of things, prices for concert tickets are fucking outrageous.
Yeah, they're huge.
But they make a little bit more sense because there's a premium attached, because at best every 2-3 years you get to see that artist play live at the venue near you.
Yeah.
Most major markets get WB at least twice a year. So it's not like you have to wait years in between Raws being in your town.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know if that thought process goes in anybody's mind there, or it's simply, all right, we're going to keep cranking this dial up to, how much people are willing to spend. And if people stop buying tickets at that price, we'll back off ever so slightly. If they're still in the phase of, we're seeing how much money we can wring out of our fan base. But then we see them playing or doing a lot of their shows of late in smaller venues, or if they're doing it in the same venues, setting it up for a smaller capacity.
Yeah.
So it's already a situation where it seems like for weekly television, the expectations of the tickets they're going to be able to sell is lower. But maybe it's this thing where, all right, the individual ticket yields, because the tickets themselves are more expensive, is still making money in these shows, and we don't have to sell as many per se, because there's still people that are going to spend $1,200 for a ringside seat to a random episode of Raw. We don't need to sell the $20 seats up in the nosebleeds.
Yeah, but dude, I don't know. With the number one issue on the mind of voters, anyways, from what I've learned over the past 24 hours, is affordability.
Yeah,
and that is the type of thing that if you play that out. If you expand that, if WWE's creative doesn't continues to underwhelm, the fall off is going to continue.
1,000%.
It's going to continue.
1,000%. 1,000%. Yeah, there's got we've talked about it for weeks, if not months now. There's going to be a breaking point.
Yeah.
Everything is a value proposition for the fan base, and if the ticket prices, which are already outrageous, get even more outrageous, but the quality of the product does not match what WWE is asking their fan base to pay to view the product live, people are not going to pay it.
Yeah, true.
And then they got to start backpedaling on these ticket prices, or start doing 2-for-1 deals or something like that, because people just aren't going to pay these outrageous sums of money to go see an episode of Raw live where, you get to go out there and eat a little bit, but nothing really happens.
Yeah. So it looks like the last time, and I've been trying to verify this, the last time UFC was here was 2019.
All right. 6 years ago.
And there seems to be a suggestion that they're going to be back in 2026.
All right.
But apparently that is not actually on the schedule yet. So, yeah. A little research for your little opening salvo there. A little bit of research. Anyways, let's move on to number one. The WrestleMania 41 main event finish. I maintain, Larson, that coming out of WrestleMania 40, Cody Rhodes, that was the boom. Cody Rhodes wins the title from Roman Reigns. Over the next year, yeah, things are all right. Things are good. They're continuing on with the, it wasn't overwhelming, but things are emotional. You got CM Punk showing up at some point after that. I think, wait, was 40 was
No,
in,
before that. It was before that.
Yeah, it was before that.
Because Cody won the Rumble that Punk
That's
was in when he
right.
came back to
What did
get
Punk
the
do at
Mania spot.
WrestleMania?
But then,
What did
The
Punk-
Rock was like, Cody, I want your soul.
What did Punk do at WrestleMania 40?
He was on commentary because he tore his tricep.
Oh, that's right.
And he cost Drew McIntyre the title after he beat
Drew
Seth
thing.
Rollins for
It was the Drew thing. You're right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. That was cool. So things are good. You get the big John Cena heel turn at the Elimination Chamber.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. That's great. You had The Rock coming out in October, I think it was, for, what was it, Bad Blood or whatever it was. And then WrestleMania. What's going to happen? John Cena versus Cody Rhodes. Why is this match so slow? Oh, we're coming down to the point where they're going to start overbooking this shit. We're going to get number 17. Who comes out? It's not The Rock. It's Travis Scott. Why is he meandering? Why does he look like he's on a gentle stroll with his fake hardcore championship that Triple H gifted him? And then he comes out, does a couple stupid things. Nobody really gives a shit. And then Cena wins after just a shit match.
Yeah, it's a dog shit match.
And people were just like, well, this is a bunch of crap. And then you get a Cena heel run, which was like, okay, that's all right. Couple good matches, some decent promos, but like no reference to The Rock. And then the face turn happened in a really lame promo involving beer and Cody Rhodes on the SmackDown prior to SummerSlam. And I maintain that Travis Scott moment was an inflection point. That was a make or break. Are you going to keep this great momentum going? Are you going to that Elimination Chamber bit was great. Are you going to keep that momentum going? And they just showed that no, we don't have it. And we're not even going to try. We're not even going to try to explain what the deal with The Rock was.
No. They put themselves in a situation because ticket sales for Elimination Chamber weren't what they wanted. So they called Dwayne to make an appearance to sell some more tickets and set themselves up to be in a situation where expectations were at a point where they couldn't deliver upon them. And they knew that. And they did it nonetheless. And I think at 41, any illusions that we had that what Triple H was doing from a creative standpoint was following some kind of vision in a long-term sense was dispelled with, because we saw it play out in a way that was very indicative of, oh, this is all just put together week to week like Vince was doing. Not in the exact same way. But you watch Unreal. How much stuff seemed like was planned? No, we're going to change it. And that happens in pro wrestling. I get it. But when Triple H is talking to The Rock ahead of Elimination Chamber, they're talking as if, oh, we got these great plans. You're going to do this. And The Rock's like, should I come out like this is something that was planned? And Triple H's like, yeah, do that. Okay. Where's the follow through?
Yeah, let's expand on that plan thing.
Let's expand on the plan. What's the purpose of it? What's the end game? You got to answer these questions if you're setting up the story, and you have to deliver on those expectations if you want your fan base to be satisfied with that creative direction. But they didn't do any of that. And they never had any intention of doing any of that.
Which is
because
wild.
They put themselves in a situation where they couldn't do it because The Rock couldn't be at WrestleMania, and they knew that at Elimination Chamber.
Yeah, it's wild. And I maintain that they have not recovered from that. And
no, they haven't.
As I said in the beginning of the episode, and I said in a very tongue-in-cheek manner, I do not think that pro wrestling booking is more difficult than brain surgery. However, I do maintain that it is an incredibly difficult thing. I've always loved your assertion that every band has at least one hit in them.
Yeah.
And if you look at the number of bands who have put out banger after banger after banger records, they're very few and far between. Mm-hmm. It does not happen very often.
Yeah.
And I feel like to consistently bring the creative energy necessary for consistently compelling live wrestling television is simply not an easy thing. It's something that has honestly never been done past a couple years at a time. If you look back at the Attitude Era, for example, you have Vince Russo feeding Vince McMahon a bunch of ideas in collaboration with, Jim Cornette, Bruce Pritchard, whatever. And you've got a pretty decent run of episodes, which was what? 3 years?
Yeah.
Maybe 4 years?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And you look back and it's like, yeah, it just simply hasn't been done. And there are always ebbs and flows. There are always peaks and valleys when it comes to wrestling creative. And I feel like there have been opportunities for them to improve their stuff. And in certain places here and there, they have. But the potential with the talent they have is so much greater. And now that they don't have the burden of Vince McMahon and all of the baggage that he came with and his inability to listen to anybody, least of which is fans, you do have an opportunity to put on some compelling stuff. And for all the billion-dollar deals you've cut, you probably should be putting on some more compelling stuff.
Absolutely. And Triple H, stepped into, the Chief Creative Officer, CCO role at a point when one of, if not the best stories in the history of wrestling was going, the Bloodline saga. And, he had the opportunity to use that story to carry so much of his programming. And it did. Mm-hmm. You watch some of those episodes of SmackDown when the Bloodline stuff was at its best. Outside the Bloodline stuff, there is jack shit going on.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And there's episodes where there was not a lot of Bloodline stuff in it.
Yeah.
There was not much really to focus on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That story, the main part of it, the body of it, ended at WrestleMania 40.
Yeah, it did.
And it seems like ever since then, they've been scrambling to find something that has that same magic to it. And they haven't, or can't. We saw what Triple H had, how he handled booking in NXT. It's all pretty straightforward stuff.
It is, yeah. Yeah.
He relies on building matches and having the matches deliver. Mm-hmm. That seems to be his philosophy for the most part.
There needs to be, I wonder if, the number 3 entry where Triple H is everything, right? Well, we've heard lately that he hasn't been at televisions. There was one where he wanted to be on like a podcast or something.
Yeah.
He just did another podcast recently. And it makes you wonder if he needs to take a bit more of a Brian Wilson approach. Like, hey, I get it, dude. You want to be the face of the company because you feel like the company needs a consistent, strong, steady hand in front of the cameras. And part of that is doing press. I get that. But at a certain point, are you sacrificing the quality of your creative? I'm not even saying the guy should be at TV. I don't fucking know, if it's that important for him to be at TV for moments that don't need his particular, hand involved. But in terms of crafting a vision throughout your year where, I've thought about this recently, and if they adopted the philosophy, and I know this is very us-centric or content creation-centric, but we know every single review that we do, we know how well it's going to do based off of what we watch on television. If they can craft television where every single episode has an event, an image, or a title that you can use for a thumbnail and do good with your views, if you are a content creator, then you've accomplished your task. That means there's interest, because whenever we do a good number, there's interest in your show. Your rating is probably going to be pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, whatever, even if you expand that out beyond the idea of like, okay, well, how would this look good on a thumbnail? Just what's the hook of your episode? What are people going to be talking about? Because that's what you want, is what are people going to be talking about? Oh, Motor City Machine Guns put on a good match. People aren't going to be talking about that unless there is a reason that Motor City Machine Guns put on that amazing match that will resonate with the story of Motor City Machine Guns. See, exactly. I threw you a bone there.
Thank you. Yeah, and honestly, at this point, if WB Creative and Triple H can craft a really interesting story, intriguing, compelling story involving Motor City Machine Guns and the rest of the tag division.
You don't have to continue it.
that would be something else, because that shit would show me, all right, our focus just isn't on the 5 or 6 40-year-old men in our main event scene. You know, we're putting that level of attention across the entire show.
Specifically, the 2 40-year-old men in the Motor City Machine Guns.
In the Motor City Machine Guns. But you know what I mean? At least the focus isn't strictly on the 5 or 6 40-year-olds in the main event scene.
Anyways, let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Is the WWE boom period done with? And
yes.
so,
oh, you're not asking me. Sorry.
Well, we've talked about it for over an hour, so I hope you think it is. Let us know in the comments below what you guys think about all this. Till next time, we'll see you guys around.
Goodbye.